Your dad proposed to you in front of your siblings and your mom at 15 years old.
Yeah, well, I was 16 by then, but yes.
Your biological father.
My biological father.
You put up a reel, and when I tell you it got real in the comment section.
For my 16th birthday, my father proposed to me. Yes, you heard that right. My biological father got on one knee with a ring and asked me to marry him. Surrounded by my mother and my 6 siblings, we stood in the library of the construction site we called home, and I didn't answer. Pregnant with my first child by my father, I cried. Ironically, he thought they were tears of joy. He'd spent the last 8 years brainwashing me through various types of abuse and assumed I'd conformed. But little did he know, escaping him was a hope I refused to let go of. I lost the ring. 8 years later, I found freedom, and he's sitting in jail.
Your dad proposed to you in front of your siblings and your mom at 15 years old.
Yeah, well, I was 16 by then, but yes.
Your biological father.
My biological father. I did write a short poem called Free in a Box. It explores the fact that I was raised isolated in the middle of a very metropolitan state, which is New Jersey. I mean, we have rural areas, but you know, for the most part, it's pretty metropolitan, especially when you're close to New York. People didn't know what was going on behind closed doors. They didn't know what was going on in our home. I was homeschooled and not allowed to have friends. I was in Paterson, New Jersey, in the midst of a very populated area, to the point that sometimes when my siblings and I were outside behind the gate, I wasn't allowed by a certain age to go outside of the fence of our home. Police officers would drive by and stop and say, "Aren't you supposed to be in school?" You know, they didn't explore past that. You know, my father, he eventually became a music video director.
Oh.
But he started off as a cabinet maker, an interior designer. He was very much into, you know, African culture and the role Black people played in American history. So I was raised knowing about enslaved Africans, stolen Africans, what our as a community, how we are oppressed in the community, how police treat us in our communities. And so, of course, having that fear instilled in me, once a police officer drove past, I became afraid of them. I was afraid of them in general, right? Yeah. Because I knew how they treated, based on what my father taught us and images and books that he would show us and read to me. I knew how they looked at Black people. I'll just go ahead and just say it. So my father was molesting me at that age. So I'm 8. He started molesting me when I was 8 years old, and he started raping me when I was 10.
Jesus.
Kept us out of school, so I had never been to school or anything. And as the abuse got worse over time, as I got older, he then would not allow me to go outside, wouldn't allow me to play with other kids, and eventually got to the point where I was not allowed to speak to my extended family. So I was cut off from my aunts and my uncles, my cousins, my grandmother.
And it was only you.
Well, it started with only me. And over the course of the beginning part of my childhood, so from like 8 to 14, it was only me he was abusing, because he told me that if I complied, if I kept the secret, if I stopped fighting, then he would not molest my sisters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's how he maintained control. So a lot of people ask me, well, why didn't you run away? Why didn't you fight? Why didn't you? I did all of that. But then he interjected these modes of control. One was that he would hurt my mom. He would kill her. He would beat her. And I witnessed him beating her. He was abusive to my mother. And that he would then molest my sisters.